Welcome everyone to our startup webinar. Very fortunate to have Peng Cau here with us. This webinar is really for startups and founders and people who are looking to innovate and start, something new. And honestly, I love working with startups. Those are some of the bravest, most innovative people out there. So if you're a startup or want to look into starting a business in hard tech, this is for you. My name is Andy Dio. I'm the VP of Marketing for Saratech. And very fortunate today to have Peng Cau with us. She was a founder herself, started a very successful startup business, sold it and successfully exited, but now she works with Siemens and leads the Siemens for Startups program for the Americas. And Peng is also an angel investor. So, hey, you need some cash for your startup, Peng's the person to talk to. Peng, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andy, for inviting me to the webinar. Hello, everybody. I'm Peng-Sang Cau. I currently work for Siemens as the director for the startup program, which I'm very passionate about. I was a former founder, started an engineering company that eventually moved into industrial automation equipment. And we started in our basement. I took it global as a CEO. And then in 2012, we developed a disruptive technologies. And in 6 years, we took it into 4 continents. We patented 4 continents. We went to our biggest competitor and say, hey, would you like to license? And within half an hour, they say, nope, we want to buy the whole thing. And within like 5-6 months, the deal was signed and I had to work for them. And after that, I took a bit of time off and Siemens called and here I am. So on the side, I'm also on the board director of another automation company and the board director for our local economic development. I do a bit of angel investment. And I do a number of coaching and mentor of hard tech startup because I understand the challenges that they go through.
Excellent. Glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Andy.
Right. So this is our agenda for today. So as an attendee, this is what you walk away with, right? So you learn real lessons from a real startup founder. And we'll talk about mistakes and things that you can avoid as a startup. We'll also talk about resources that are available to you as a startup from Siemens and from other sources. You walk away hopefully with a clear understanding and a knowledge of what to do for your next step to accelerate your growth. All right. And for those of you who might not be familiar with Saratech, we're an engineering company. We're focused on helping customers speed up product development. And we do that by optimizing processes with digital threads, with leading technologies like Siemens, and with our industry expertise. All right, so let's dive into it, right? What is the one misconception that first-time founders have? That Peng?
I think, Andy, I see it over and over again, particularly with hard tech founders that start out in the university lab or an engineer with a brilliant ideas. They fall in love with their technology rather than falling in love with solving a real problem that their customers, not them, that their customers have and is willing to pay for. So they focus on making their technology better and optimizing and spend all the money without really communicating with that end customers and without having a good commercialization strategies to know who's willing to pay for it and what's the value propositions that they're offering to the market. Over and over again, that's what I keep seeing. And this is why only 1 in 10 startup will be successful.
Wow. So you may have the greatest technology in the world, but if there's no practical or real application to it, you're not going to be successful, right? If you build it, they don't necessarily come, right?
Well, I think that's it, right? The feel or dream, right? This misconception that if you build it, they will come. That's not at all true at all. I have seen great technologies that failed, and I've seen mediocre technology that succeed. And, I don't think there's a better example than if you look at history, someone like Tesla, who was the greatest inventor of all time, who died broke. And it's, again, not connecting solutions to customer problems. And that is fundamental to the startup, whether they will succeed or they will be that 90% that don't make it.
Yeah, no, great point. Great point. Now, for your startup, was there anything that almost broke your startup when you first started?
Yeah, many things. I think, building a hard tech company is extremely difficult in the sense that it requires so much capital to build the first prototype. And a lot of time investors and early adopters wants to see the product before it happens. We started our company in 1995 where we didn't have access to the software tools that exist today. We were one of the original company that was using mechanical 3D modeling like 30 years ago. We were Rev 1 with a mechanical desktop. I don't think if the company's even around anymore, right? So we didn't have the access to the tools that startups have today. And so there were a number of times that we almost went bankrupt because of the high capital that's required to build up the infrastructure and then build the product. And the investment environment in Canada isn't the same as, let's say, the Bay Area. So that makes it even more challenging to access capital. So yeah, there's been a few times that we almost didn't make it.
So that's an interesting point of view, right? Because the technology available to startup out there, it costs a lot of money. And back in the day, there weren't startup programs like they are today, like this one right here from Siemens. So besides fund, obviously every startup has funding challenges, right? But when it comes to early stages for startup, what do you think matters more? Is it product? Is it team? Or is it timing?
I think it's a little bit of everything. There's a saying that timing is like luck, right? Like the more you do, the more often you do, the luckier you get. Same with timing. And that is so critical to when you're developing technology, just when there is a problem that you can solve, perfect timing. But when you can't gauge when that perfect timing is, you create that by going to the market and truly understand the problems that they have. At the end of the day, you need to be able to justify or be able to explain clearly and concisely to that end customer what is their ROI. And if you can't do that, then it really doesn't matter. I think when you have a great product and there's momentum being built and you're solving a real problem, you will entice the team. At that point, understanding what does good leadership looks like is extremely critical. When you're an early startup, people don't join you because of the high paycheck. You can get that
Right.
somewhere else, right? But knowing how to treat people. There's a lot of engineers that I've found over the years who, yeah, they could have gone pay, way more with big corporations, but they joined us because of the energy, that the culture that we provided would basically give them an environment where they can fail and fail fast and to develop something that no one has ever done before. And a lot of time engineers go into that field for that reason. They are trying to change how we live, how we work, how we, play, whatever that may be. There's a passion for innovation, and that's why they join you. So I think all three go hand in hand, and it's easier to have a team when you have something exciting that they want to be part of that journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the mantra of startup, right? Fail, but fail fast. So you can
Absolutely.
learn from it, right? And then repeat until you're successful. So as an angel investor, there are signals that tells you if a startup will most likely succeed, or what are some of the things when people come and pitch to you and you say, oh yeah, I'm gonna invest in this company, or you say, nah, this is not the right tool or the right situation you walk.
Yeah, I think if the founders has been in the space that they are trying to develop a product for, I'm interested in that because that shows me that they understand the problems that they're trying to solve, right? Number one. Number two, they truly understand not just what their product is going to do, but truly understand the buying behavior of the customers. So they understand the value proposition, they understand the customer ROI, they understand the complexity of the integration of their product into the existing workflow, whatever that may be. They have a sound commercialization strategies. There's a misconception that commercialization strategy equate to marketing. It is not. Commercialization strategy is much more complex. It's overarching in terms of looking at the sales strategy, the marketing strategy, the operational strategy, the after sales and service and support. So it's the entire ecosystem of how do you get that early adopter that you need to cross the chasm, and when they cross, the strategy is different, right? So how do you get them to cross? What do you need to do to ensure that not just they buy the product from you, but they're successful in using it? And I think that's the biggest gap that I continue to see with founders.
Good, good advice and good observations. So we've been talking about what makes a startup successful. So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the pitfalls or traps that are out there for startup, right? Because many tech startup fails not because of the idea, but because of execution and bottlenecks, right? So on our podcast, and thank you for doing our podcast, I really appreciate it. You talk about the importance of having the right team and treating people the right way.
Correct.
Can you expand on why that's important for startups?
I think it's go back to my earlier comment, right? Many engineers or many employees that join a startup, they don't join because you pay better than, some of the bigger company or government that can pay them. They join because of a culture. And that culture is usually wrapped around appreciating and respecting people for who they are. Put yourself in their shoes. What would you want that to look like? It's building a culture where people feel that they're valued, that they're contributing, and that the activities that they do move the needles. You're not just part of the big wheel that keep turning and you don't feel like your contribution. How you treat them will determine if they stay with you during the difficult time or they walk away as soon as they can. Without a solid team, a strong team that's loyal and committed, that's willing to put in that extra hours, you will not succeed. I don't care how brilliant you are. So there got to be something. If there got to be a culture that is very exciting and powerful, and or the way you treat them, awarding them, reward, So all of that is critical because without human resources, everything else is noise.
Absolutely. I strongly believe in that. It's at the end of the day, it's the human element, right? It's working with other people. It's that connection that we have. It's that single vision that kind of unites the team, right? To focus on achieving that goal. So speaking about that, a lot of times startup, because of lack of funding and they're more focused on, hey, who can I get on board? That they're not extremely focused on tech because some people think that's way out of our price range or that's too expensive. So should startups start right away with enterprise grade tools, or they should start with something cheaper and then kind of slowly transition to more enterprise class tools?
Yeah, I think if you can start with the right enterprise tools, you should. The problems that I had when I started my company years ago, programs like Siemens for Startup did not exist. So we didn't have a choice. We had to go with the cheapest and the free ones. The problem with that is that if your product is complex and at some point you hit a technology wall where you do have to switch to a more enterprise tools that allows you to continue development, that's when you actually in the midst of scaling up. So now you can't scale up because now you have to go back and figure out what technology stack you need. You have to build that up. You have to transfer your data into the new technology. So you lost your momentum. And the problem with losing that momentum, then you lose credibility in the market because you're going to deliver late. You're going to lose credibility with your investors. You make a promise that you're going to deliver on a certain date, and if you miss that. And so the problems start to cascade by making the wrong decision. This is why when I learned about Siemens for Startup, about a year ago before I joined Siemens, I was really excited about it. And I wanted to learn more because I wanted to bring the information to my startups as a mentor and a coach, and also as an angel investor. So from my perspective, if you're investing in a company or if you're a founder, you could either use the money to hire more people or you use the money to buy expensive enterprise tool. But if there's a programs like the one that Siemens offer, why not just partner up and take advantage of the opportunity that's provided? So in summary, when there's a program that allows you to make it affordable, take advantage now.
Excellent point. And outside of choosing the wrong technology because of price or convenience or what have you, what other mistakes do you commonly see that hard tech startups make?
I think the biggest one I've seen, and it's the same thing for the last 30 years, whether it's IT, right? So information technologies on the software side or hard tech, it's the same. And it goes back to my earlier comment. Engineers fall in love with the technologies and not the solutions and the problems that they're trying to solve. And so they spend 12 to 24 months building the prototype instead of building a digital twin and go to the market and talk to the customer. Then they iterate. They like, oh, maybe the customer will like this features, instead of having a digital twin and say to the customer, would you like this feature and how much would you be willing to pay for it? So, over that course of time, they build, they prototype, they improve. They don't talk to the customers. They burn through their capitals. And now they're trying to raise the next round, and they just keep raising round and round instead of build your digital twin, build your MVP, go to the market early, find that early adopters. Not everyone is going to want to buy your technology because they tend to be late adopters. Ignore those customers. Find the champions and the early adopters within a couple of key customers that you want to penetrate. Build your MVP and your digital twin and try to sell the first system or the first product before you cut your metal. If you can do that, the percentage of success is much higher than building in the dark room by yourself.
Right, getting that feedback. So we talked about technology. Let's dive in a little bit on the resources that Siemens actually have for startups, right? So like you mentioned before, back in the day when you did your startup, there was nothing out there like this. You didn't have access to enterprise class solutions like NX, Team Center, Sim Center, right? Can you talk about some of the resources and things that are available for Siemens startup today, and your approach and Siemens approach to helping startup?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to start off with what I call the three-headed dragon of hard tech, right? There are many startups that are in SaaS or apps or whatever that don't face the same challenges as hard tech founders. Hard tech founders have the first head is long development cycle and high capital requirement to build their MVP, right? And starting with enterprise tools to even just take their ideas into a concept.
For those uninitiated, what is MVP?
Oh, a minimal viable product, right? So, and usually an MVP will only be purchased by early adopters who are willing to take risk with you. You're not gonna, and this is usually the first product that allows you to cross the chasm that I mentioned earlier, right? So there's a lot of capital just to get to that point. The second head is the lack of capital. Investors in general prefer to invest in SaaS companies or apps company where it's shorter development cycle and don't need as much capital. So it's a double whammy right there. The third head is the early adopters that I've talked about a lot. Early adopters tend to be innovators themselves that are willing to take risks with a startup. Their challenge there isn't just whether or not your technology is going to work, but whether or not you can service them and whether or not you will be around if they were to buy your technologies. So those are the three heads that founders have to fight every single time without fail. So what Siemens tries to do in the Siemens for Startup program is we try to be your partner in helping to slay this ugly dragon. Think of us as the spear or the sword, right? And we do that in two ways. The first way we do that is to provide startup with our enterprise software tools that our global customers are using at a 95% discount. And what I love about this program, when I first heard about it prior to joining Siemens, is that it's not a light version, right? And that's a problem with a lot of programs. They give you a light version where you're not accessing all the key features and benefits where that the tools can give you. So you are going to hit at some point a technology stack, and your team isn't learning how to optimize these tools to build your products. And again, makes it really difficult for you to scale. So what I love about this program is that we provide enterprise tool at a 95% discount so that founders can start right away with tools that are used by their biggest customers and be able to develop their ideas, simulate it, build a digital twin, and go to the market with it. This is such an exciting thing for founders. I remember when I first met my former boss prior to joining the company, I'm like, where were you when I needed you? And like, that's when I needed you. So that's the first part of how we try to help you slay the dragon. The second part goes back to what I've said earlier about commercialization. We provide free, and that's a really key word, free, co-marketing opportunities for founders. And what that does is to be able to build your brand with the Siemens global brand that has existed for 100 and some odd years to give you that credibility and visibility that a startup desperately needed. So we do a number of things. We have podcasts, we have case study videos. We invite our founders to events where they can network with angels, with VC, with our leadership team. Siemens is the only company in the world that have software tools from the day a founder have an ideas that need to be designed all the way to automation, right? And for a founder, that's a long way off. But if you start with the right partners, you will never hit a technology stack where you have to start over and worrying about your data and how to transfer your data from one tools to the next tool. And that's extremely powerful because this whole idea of Industry 4.0, you got to find the right partners, have the mean in which your data, which is a digital thread, can flow from day one to when you're building in volume and manages all of your bill of materials. Again, this is why I'm so passionate about this program, is that we are doing two really key things that founders needed from day one.
Since I'm a marketer, that is marketing. A lot of founders out there may not pay as much attention to the marketing aspect and the branding aspect of their technology, their company, but that's key, isn't it? Like we talked about earlier, just because you build it doesn't mean they'll come, right? You have to let people know what you're building, why it's helping them, and this network and the different resources that Siemens has is incredible. The podcast and everything that you mentioned is really, really useful for a startup.
Well, and the other thing too, Andy, is that, again, going back to what we said earlier, right? A lot of hard tech are founded by someone with a technical background. And the challenge in that is that they don't truly understand what marketing means. And I've met so many engineers, so many CEOs that think marketing is someone who knows how to build a website or someone who knows how to put a PowerPoint together, right? No, that's like saying engineer is someone who can build a circuit board just as well as someone who can build a power plant. They're totally different, right? They're different skill set, they're different experience. And I think that's the challenge, is a mismatch of what is marketing, what is commercialization, and trying to get that founder who is with a technical background appreciating and respecting why the marketing side of the business and the commercialization side is so critical to their success. And the best teams that I have found is founders who are combining the engineers with the business individual and a willingness to learn. And that was it with my partners. 3 of my partners were engineers. I had the business background. I had sales, marketing, international business, and we learned to respect each other's experience and skills. They don't, try to tell me how to commercialize their technology. I don't try to tell them how to do R&D and how to develop technology that we took global, right? And I think that's a key point. If you're a founder and you know that you're missing that background, find a partners to complement your weakness, and that builds the best team.
All right, so that transitions into partnership, right? Let's talk about partnership a little bit. Founders and startup is they're very protective, right? So they're very careful who they bring in, and who they share their ideas of technology with. But having the right partner is key to success. So why is it important to have a strong partner or strong partnerships? And when should start thinking about bringing in partners?
I think almost right away. I think the best founders are the one that truly understand their strengths and their weaknesses and be okay with their weaknesses and find business partners who complement that, as I said earlier. The second thing is once they start building up their companies is understanding what partnerships their company needs. And a program like Siemens for Startup, we see ourselves as a partner. We don't take equity in the company. We are there for 5 years to help the startup to scale by providing that network, that visibility that they don't have. And again, I think truly successful founders understand that they cannot exist and be successful in an island. They're going to need other people. Yes, protect your IP. I've seen just as many startups that fail because they talk to the wrong people or sign the wrong contract and end up having their IP stolen. So absolutely, make sure you hire a good IP lawyer, get that signed. But if you don't talk to people, you will never get your company off the ground. And partnership is both people that you bring in, but also other corporation that can help take you further. And what I love about this role that I'm in is that I see that as complementing not just the access to enterprise software tools at a 95% discount and free co-marketing, but be able to be the conduit for the founders to access other part of Siemens, which is a big global company. I think it's over 400 and some odd thousand employees with in many business units, right? So if I can help a founder access that conduits and access external conduits like angel investors or other ecosystem or investors, that's going to help them grow. So to summarize is that you need to have the right partners almost immediately to be successful.
Great point. So speaking of partnership, I just want to circle back to all of the ecosystem that Siemens has, including partners. Saratech is a Siemens partner, and we work with a lot of startup companies and company in various stages of development, right? So just because you have the technology doesn't mean it's easy. It's not flipping a switch and you're ready to go. You need some help in establishing workflow, implementation, training, setting your company up for future success, right? Yes. And with a company like Saratech, we are engineering heavy. So over half the people at Saratech are engineers or working engineer doing production work. So they understand the challenges of a typical workday or workflow of an engineer or a department trying to build something, trying to build a product. We're here to help. And we have the experience to help, and we work with some of the biggest startups in the industry, as well as some of the smaller cool startups. You guys probably heard of ArcBoat. They're one of our customers who build these really super cool electric boats that I can't afford. Reach out to us and to Siemens. You have the resources here, and we can help you. Right.
And Andy, you touched on a really important part, right? You had asked about partnerships earlier. So if you look at Siemens, despite the size of Siemens, partnerships with organizations like Saratech is critical to our success. Saratech has been a tremendous partner for our startup program from day one. This program started 5 years ago by my predecessor who retired, Paul Musto, wonderful man. And Saratech has been with Paul and now me from the very start. And so, talking about partnership, if you have strong partnership, you will be successful.
Yeah, I mean, we love startups, right? That's just the backbone of innovation.
Yeah, well, you said it earlier, right? I used to say when people said, "Oh, like compliment me," I say, "Well, I don't know if I'm brilliant or just crazy. I'm just gonna go with crazy."
I think you have to have a little bit of both, right? What are some of the key takeaways in this session? So Obviously, to have a successful startup, you need a great idea, right? You need something that has a demand in the marketplace. And we talk about, having the right people, the right infrastructure, the right tools, and the right partnership in order to better your chances of being successful. And programs like Siemens for Startup Peng, as you said, provide founders with so much resources, with tools like NX, Team Center, Sim Center, among others, and also a network of, resources for marketing. You can partner up with, companies like us, to really increase your chance for success, right? So from your point of view, practical advice, what are some of the things that you recommend startup founders do immediately this quarter?
With respect to the Siemens for Startup program, Andy, that's easy. Like, reach out to Andy or I. I mean, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. My email address is just peng-sang.cau@siemens.com. Happy to talk through what the needs are and see how we can support you. Don't wait. It's
Time's money, right?
Yeah.
Let's get going. Again, Peng, thank you so much for joining me today, and glad all of you are able to join us today. And hopefully, you walked away learning a little bit more about what's available out there for you as a startup company, and get some practical advice from a successful founder like Peng, and learn a little bit more about what it takes to build a successful startup. If you want to learn more, or you want to deep dive into anything that we talked about today, please feel free to reach out to me or to Peng, and we'll be more than happy to help. We love startups.
Thanks,
All right.
Andy.
Thank you, Peng. Bye.